to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Coming to you live from the Gallery Book and Bar and Games. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, Derek Gunn with you here because this football season, the party is right here at Ocean Casino Resort, especially for all your game day needs. Your game day headquarters, Ocean Casino Resort and the Gallery. The Book and Games place right here is where you need to party in AC. And we're going to talk all things Eagles and Cardinals as you're undefeated. Philadelphia Eagles at 4-0 take on the 2-2 Arizona Cardinals. Fresh off a flight from Arizona, doing a little reconnaissance mission and maybe some partying. Seth Joyner, of course, Eagles Hall of Famer and veteran Eagles reporter Derek Gunn. Fellas, after this week, listening to this team speak, nothing grabbed my attention more for a 4-0 team than the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback and the reigning offensive player of the month, Jalen Hurts, talking about how this team still needs to improve and how we can't overlook, or rather the Eagles can't overlook, a team like the Arizona Cardinals coming into this game. They're coming off a tough loss at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs, but still at this point, Seth, confidence is at an all-time high for this Philadelphia Eagles team.
Well, listen, they should be confident, but I like Jalen's position, and I like the rest of the team's position because, honestly, they have not played a complete game as of yet, okay? They've outscored everybody in the NFL in the second quarter. That's about it. They scored one first-quarter touchdown in the last 4 games. And the defense has played so well in the second half that they haven't had to score a bunch of points. But, you know, this game against the Arizona Cardinals is a different type of game because, you know, you got a different type of animal in Kyler Murray. And, I mean, he pulled a rabbit out of his hat to get, you know, the Arizona Cardinals a win against the Raiders. The Raiders thought they had their game locked with a double-digit lead going into the fourth quarter. Boom, boom. He's running all over the place like crazy. And next thing you know, they come back and they win the game. So they should still be pushing. I mean, and pushing hard as they can, you know, to play a complete game on both sides of the ball because, you know, down the stretch, this is what it's going to take.
And Gunnar, to further that point, talking about trying to play a complete game, you go back to one of his first career starts, Jalen Hurts. It was against this Cardinals team. It was in Arizona. And wouldn't you know it, they didn't score a point in the first quarter, yet they come out in that second quarter of that game and scored 20 points, which has certainly been the MO of this Eagles team this year. So looking at this team right now, what do they need to do to play that complete game, and what are the odds we see that from the Eagles today?
Well, let's hope they get off to a much faster start than they did just a week ago. And let's hope that they remember there's 60 minutes of football to be played offensively and not just 30. Seth is right. The defense is held it down. They've been locked down in the second half to make things a lot easier for this Philadelphia Eagles team. But as explosive as they've been in that second quarter, I'm going to see that explosion occur in the third or fourth quarter as well and just put teams out of their misery. Now, you're playing a mediocre Arizona Cardinals team, but you're playing them in their backyard. And as we've seen each and every week in the National Football League, always expect the unexpected. It happened earlier today with the Giants against Green Bay. Don't take this Arizona Cardinal team lightly, and I know this Philadelphia Eagles team won't, because as the players have told me, we haven't proven anything yet. We're 4-0, but we've got a long way to go to get to where we want to be and to establish ourselves as a type of football team we want to be at the end of the season, more importantly than the beginning of the season.
It really is wild when you look at just the numbers. I mean, the record speaks for itself, 4-0, but when you do break it down a little bit further when it comes to the numbers, we're looking at an Eagles defense right now that is ranked third, going into Week 4, ranked third in yards per game. They're ranked number 1 in turnover differential. They're ranked number 1 in sacks. This is coming into this week. I never thought I would see this in the Jonathan Gannon defense. They are, wait for it, actually being aggressive, more aggressive than I have seen. How much of that, Seth, is Jonathan Gannon? How much of that maybe is the players and the personnel? And how much of that might be Vic Fangio's input on what this defense does?
I believe it's a combination of all of those things, I think, because when you go back and you look at this defense last year, we didn't see the type of creativity where you get free runners running at the quarterback. You know, they're doing a lot of line stunts that they didn't do, you know, last year, and they didn't do through the first game. You know, to be honest with you, it wasn't until game 2 that you actually seen them ramp things up a little more, and you saw a little more creativity. You look at a guy like T.J. Edwards; they're sending him a lot. Last year, he had this tag hung on him that he couldn't blitz. So Alex Singleton was the guy that was always blitzing, which was a dead giveaway. But now, you know, you look up T.J.'s got a sack. He's got a bunch of pressures, and I just think that, you know, they need to remain aggressive, in my opinion. I've been looking. I'm trying to find their blitz percentage, you know, in comparison to the rest of the NFL, because I think last year they were like 14%, and that was like in the lower third or the lower half of blitzing in the NFL. I think it's a direct reflection when, you know, you pressure a quarterback. It's a direct reflection on turnovers. It's a direct reflection on sacks. It's a direct reflection on, you know, the amount of yards that teams can have against you. And there are things that you can do in the run game as well to kind of get that under control. It's going to be interesting today to watch and see what Jonathan Gannon's game plan is against a guy like Kyler Murray, because if this defense can be really, really undisciplined sometimes at the defensive end position. On plays away, the defensive ends close too fast. It's almost like, you know, you're responsible for cutback and containment. That I don't understand. So when you're playing a guy like this and he struggled from the pocket, you know that they're going to roll him out. They're going to do some bootlegs. I mean, that defensive end needs to stay home and keep him in the pocket. That's where you want him to play from. You want him to play from the pocket rather than outside, because he's having some troubles seeing over those 6'5", 6'6", you know, offensive linemen in front of him.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Jonathan Gannon, when he was addressing the media earlier in the week, he was asked about his blitz percentage. And the question was in relevance to, well, you're up 6% from what you were last year. And Jonathan Gannon, rather than just taking the victory, taking the W, being like, yes, I am being more aggressive, decided to shoot that down. No, that can't be the case. We're not blitzing at a higher percentage than we were last year, at least not 6% higher. Gunnar, I'm thinking it's working. Who cares what the percentage is at this point? It's working for you. If you are blitzing more, which I think we can all, just by the eye test, tell that the Eagles are under this version of Jonathan Gannon's defense, then just take the compliment.
Well, it's good to see that Jonathan Gannon can have a sense of humor, considering the darts that have been thrown his way since last season and after the first game of the season against Detroit. He knows what the numbers are, and he knows each and every situation. Now that he has a more comfort zone with his defensive personnel, I expect those numbers to be consistently up across the board. Now, when you blitz a guy like a Kyler Murray, discipline is the optimum word for this game, because when you think you have him, you don't. Like Seth said, the best way to defend him is to try to keep him in the pocket. But we've seen too many times teams have tried to keep him in the pocket. All of a sudden, he slips through a gap somewhere. I think you're going to have to put a spy on him. Who that spy is, I don't know who it may be, but you got to have somebody watching him. Now, that may take away from your coverage in certain situations, but I'd rather take my chances with my guys on the back end who have played phenomenal the last 3 games of one-on-one coverage with this guy than having 5 guys drive back and giving him 15, 20 yards of space to run in up front.
How would you defend against Kyler Murray today? When it comes to guys like T.J. Edwards potentially being a spy, maybe Hassan Reddick, who's been doing a phenomenal job on the edge, maybe you use his speed as a QB spy. How would you defend against Kyler Murray today?
Well, I'm not a big fan of the spy, because no matter who you put on him, if you're not in the right position at all times, you can lose the spy. You know, I played that spy position before, and a defensive lineman gets in front of you or blocks you, and the quarterback's out. I think your defensive ends have to be a lot more disciplined. I mean, you got to get up the field, okay, 3 yards, no more than 3 to 3.5 yards up the field, and stop. Okay, you don't want to run around behind him and have the offensive lineman run you by, okay, which opens up a huge gap between the tackle and the tackle and the guard. Okay, just be disciplined. Now, the real key is how, Fletcher and Javon Hargrave and Jordan Davis, if they can push the pocket and the defensive ends on the outside can just be disciplined and just not go hog wild, just drooling for sacks, realizing that if you get pushed inside, those guys, the quarterback he's gonna have to flow to you. Okay, he's either gonna get sacked in the pocket or he's gonna flow to you. But sometimes, we coaches get on you and they love for you to they're like, go 100 miles an hour, fly to the ball. And there's a time and place for everything. There's a time and a place where, as a defense, you better be like crazed dogs, just running at, what you got to get to. But there's also times, where you got to go 50, 60, sometimes 70%, and you got to just throttle it down so that you can make sure you keep a guy like Kyler in the pocket. Listen, he's more dangerous outside of the pocket than he is in the pocket.
I'm glad you brought that up, because what's the first and foremost mindset of an edge rusher? Get home, as you just said. Now you're going to try to tell a guy to go X amount of feet and then pump the brakes? I don't know of any defensive ends that can do that consistently in today's football game.
I tell you what, that's the thing that stopped us, back in the day with Randall. That's what stopped us from winning in the playoffs. Because what teams did was they let them run all over the place during the regular season. You get to the playoffs and you get, these crafty defensive coordinators, and they would just say, okay, we're just going to make you play from the pocket, and we're just going to try to push the pocket. Listen, I get it. You pay these guys a lot of money, these defensive ends. They want to get to the quarterback. They want sacks. Okay, but if the number one thing is winning games, okay, then you do whatever's necessary to win the football game. And sometimes you got to lock that craziness in your mind. I can remember we used to play every time we played against Barry Sanders. The defensive coordinator would be like, listen, if they run away from you, don't even pursue, just stay home. First play of the game, they toss the ball, weak away from me, and by habit, I'm trying to get a pursuit angle. And as I'm running out of my left eye here, I see he's coming back. I'm like, oh, damn, here we go. So, yeah, but all it took for that to happen was one time, So when you understand that that's important and it's a critical element to you being able to win the game, then you put your desires and what you want to do personally on the back burner, and you do what's necessary in order for the team to get to 5-0.
To bring up this name again, we've been talking about getting, over the edge, getting to the quarterback, getting home, and no one has been doing that really at a better clip over the last couple of weeks than a guy like Hassan Reddick. Brandon Graham has certainly had his time in the backfield getting things done, but the reigning NFC Defensive Player of the Week, Hassan Reddick, is a guy we talked about 2 weeks ago as a guy we needed to see more from. We had certainly seen a lot from Jalen Hurts. We had seen a lot from Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox and those guys. Who do we need to see more? We saw more from A.J. Brown on the offensive side of things. But now we're looking at a guy like Hassan Reddick that is playing at his full potential. The reason the Eagles and Howie Roseman decided to bring him in here to rush the quarterback and force turnovers. Well, here we are, gentlemen. Defensive Player of the Week, and also a guy that is forcing fumbles, causing sacks, recovering fumbles. Is he going to be the guy that you have to look at defensively this time around against a guy like Kyler Murray as a guy that almost has to be an MVP of the defense in this game? Or will it come down more to the defensive tackles getting home?
I don't think you can look at it as a single MVP. I think it has to be a collective effort. We've spent the first, 14 minutes of this show, as Seth talked about, playing a more disciplined style of defense. Not just one guy, but a collection of guys, and that includes guys in the back end, because there are going to be times when Kyler floats outside of that pocket. And what is the natural progression of a defensive back? Keep one eye on the guy you're covering. Watch that guy floating outside of the pocket because he's dangerous. Once you take your eye off that guy you're covering, that's when you get into trouble because he's going to wiggle free somewhere. It's a difficult game to play. You don't have a whole lot of Kyler Murrays in this league. You have Lamar Jackson. You have Kyler Murray. You have a few. You have Jalen Hurts. But you don't have a whole collection of these guys. So you got to change your mindset in a lot of ways in terms of how you're going to defend them. Now, offensively, Arizona doesn't have a lot of potent weapons. I think A.J. Green is still down for this game. We don't know Rondale Moore's situation yet in terms of this game. You got Marquise Hollywood Brown. He can flat out go. The running game has been non-existent. The offensive line has had problems. So who do you hold in on? That guy on the center.
There you go. So you go for the defensive back position. You also go to the defensive tackles. You go also with a guy like Hassan Reddick coming off the edge. I think the word of the day is going to be discipline when it comes to this defense.
Oh, listen, there's no doubt about it. I watch football now, and I'm always astounded. I tweeted last week about the where is the good structural integrity in defensive football nowadays. You just don't see it. I mean, you see guys running free all over the place, whether it's someone blew a coverage in zone, or whether you got two guys on one guy and they let a guy go free, and he's supposed to be covering, somebody's supposed to be covering that guy. Just general structure about how a defense is supposed to operate. If I got contained, I got contained. I don't care if they come at me or whether they go away. If I got the B gap, then guess what? I got to hold the B gap. Because if I do my job and everybody holds their gap across the board, or if everybody's rushing the way that they're supposed to instead of rushing willy-nilly, and just going off doing their own thing, then we can have a solid defense. But where teams get themselves in trouble is they allow certain things to happen. I always say, what you watch and what you see on TV is either being coached or it's being allowed, one or the other, okay? Because if I'm a defensive coach, my outside linebackers and my defensive ends can't stand up wrong foot up. Because while they might get a better push off a pass rush, when you bring motion and they run at them, they always got to step in the bucket to be able to recover. And you're a contained player. So, I don't understand how coaches let their players get away with operating so inefficiently. But that's what we see. And to your point, yes, discipline is going to be the word of the day.
I think one of the biggest reasons why, Seth, because the game has changed so much. It used to be more even keel. Defenses get away with a lot more. The league has made this such an offensive game, it's like it's almost hands-off for defenses in a lot of ways. You see more 5 wide receiver sets than you've ever seen before. You see more athletic tight ends. They have pushed this passing game to the point you see more nickel defenses than you've ever seen before. The structure of the game has changed so much. The days of when you played the game and could play it more physical, those days are over.
Well,
I agree.
I'm not even talking about physicality. I'm just talking about being technically and fundamentally sound. Where's the technique? I get it. The offenses are at an advantage because of the way that offenses are structured and the rules in the game today. Okay, but my question is, where is the technique and the fundamental integrity that gives your players an opportunity to win? The way that they play, you don't see DBs backpedaling and flipping their hips and all that kind of stuff anymore. They're all standing up and they're always out of position. So if you're a coach, and you're supposed to be teaching these young guys this, your team can be so much better if they're fundamentally sound and they're fundamentally and technically disciplined. That's what I'm talking about.
And they don't teach DBs anymore how to turn around and look for the ball anymore. I don't understand that aspect of the game, both at the college level and the pro level. That's why you have so many pass interference calls in today's game. They're always in the face of a receiver. Back in the day, they would tell you all you have to do is look at a receiver's eyes. You can tell if the ball's coming to him. And then you turn around and try to make a play on the ball. Not these guys. They're running face first and the other guys' helmets and stuff like this.
It's fear.
It's fear. And that's why the PI has become such an integral part of the offensive game. Look at how many times quarterbacks will go deep on like 3rd and short situations, 4th and short situations, because more than 50% of the time they're going to get that PI called in their favor.
They can get that drawn. They can draw that flag every single time. Absolutely. High percentage, as you said. Now, when it comes to drawing that or maybe just making plays for yourself, somebody has been doing that at a very impressive clip so far this season, and that guy's name is Jalen Hurts. I know a lot of people have come into this week talking about comparing the two quarterbacks. One just got a huge contract at $230 million. Another one might be due a similar contract in the not-too-distant future, maybe during this year, maybe right at the end of this year. Are the quarterback comparisons between Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts, gentlemen, are they fair going into this game? Are they very similar quarterbacks, just similar quarterbacks, or do they have very different styles? Obviously, you can look at the things right now as mobile quarterbacks, maybe running quarterbacks, being able to extend the play. Jalen Hurts has shown me at least a lot this year, and I think the vast majority of the Eagles fan base, that he can throw that ball deep down the field, and he can hit that slant route crisply, as he wasn't able to maybe a year ago. Certainly this year, he seems like a guy that is ready for that big contract and will be ready to sign when the Eagles do present it to him. Is the comparison between these two quarterbacks fair at this point, Gunner?
No.
No.
No, absolutely not. At this stage, Jalen Hurts is a much better passer than Kyler Murray. The only thing Kyler Murray has on Jalen Hurts is speed. That's about it. But in terms of discipline, running an offense, being able to survey a situation, get himself out of a jam, I think Jalen Hurts has surpassed Kyler Murray in those aspects. You fear Kyler Murray more so for his running ability than you do his passing ability. Now, granted, he does not have DeAndre Hopkins, doesn't have A.J. Green. Rondale Moore has been injured, so maybe that's a big difference in terms of what he's trying to do in terms of creating big plays and moving the chains down the field. But when you look at Jalen Hurts under center now compared to just a year ago, almost a completely different quarterback. Look at his percentage. He's number 6 in the league in passing already 4 games. He's number 8 in the league in completion percentage. He has made a complete transformation in terms of what he wants to be, which is a legitimate National Football League quarterback.
All right. Seth, where do you weigh in, Murray versus Hurts?
Well, listen, it's a big deal that Kyler Murray doesn't have his weapons because, without DeAndre Hopkins, who is a coverage dictator, it causes a lot of problems for what they want to do. And when you don't have your full complement, listen, Jalen Hurts got a full complement of weapons in front of him, so it's a lot easier for him. Right now, it's hard for Kyler Murray because all he has is Hollywood Brown and Zach Ertz. So, as a defensive coordinator, it's a lot easier for me to take 2 guys away than when you have a full complement of players. And then at the other end of the spectrum, the other thing is, I will continue to talk about, the struggles that Kyler has from inside the pocket because he just cannot see over the offensive line. I mean, I think that what they need to do with him is a lot of what you saw with Russell Wilson when he was playing well in Seattle. Not the current Russell Wilson, the old Russell Wilson. But I digress. Every time you saw him run play action pass, I mean, he set up 9 to 10 yards deep. It wasn't just because he had maneuverability and room around him, but it's so he could see down the field. Because like Kyler, he's a shorter quarterback. So you don't want to line him up at 4, snap the ball, take 2 steps back as the line is being pushed. You can't see. So you got to see. You got to create windows. With Jalen, it's different because Jalen's got enough height to stand in. You can go play action. You can get him deep. There's a whole lot of different things, that can happen, for Jalen that is harder for Kyler to do. But I'm telling you right now, DeAndre Hopkins makes a huge difference in that offense, a huge difference because it predetermines, pre-snap what kind of coverage you're going to get, how he's going to be played. The minute that he understands he's got single coverage over there, that ball's going over there. And think about this, DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald last year averaged almost 15 targets a game. That tells you how big of a piece that is.
Wow. Not only that, but body language goes a long way. You look at when things go bad for Jalen Hurts, he's ready to go his next series. You look at Kyler Murray, you see Kyler Murray moping on the sideline. What kind of message is that sending to his teammates when you got to go back out there in the field? We've noticed that at Kyler Murray last year after they lost that first game of the season. From there in, Arizona bottomed out. You look at Kyler's body language. You look at him as a leader off season. He takes everything of the Arizona Cardinals off his social media until he gets his contract. All of a sudden, he comes back again. Okay? We understand he doesn't have the weapons, but if you're going to lead, you have to be able to lead through the bad times as well as the good times. Body language goes a long way in terms of how your teammates follow you.
Body language and leadership, of course. Seth Joyner, Derek Gunn, Marc Farzetta with you here with the JAKIB Media Eagles pregame show from Ocean Casino Resort. When we come back, we're going to talk to our man on the scene in the desert, John McMullen, who's out there. A lot of injury news that we want to get the latest on from John coming up in just a few, and that's when we return here on the pregame show on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel live from Ocean Casino Resort.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Welcome to Pondley Hockey. We've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. If you've been injured at work, give Pondley Hockey a call.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
It's a fall car fest, and Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, says, yes, you can. Jeff says, yes, you can choose from over 1,000 vehicles in stock with no wait. Yes, you can still get low prices, leases, and big discounts. Yes, you can still get low interest financing. And Jeff always says, yes, you can have a real deal buying experience without the hassle. When the other dealers say, no, you can't, Jeff says, yes, you can. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown. Nobody treats you better. Jeep Adventure Days.
Welcome back to Ocean Casino Resort, JAKIB Media YouTube channel pregame show, talking all things Eagles and Cardinals. And we are here at Ocean Casino Resort from the live bar, book, and games. Marc Farzetta, Derek Gunn, Seth Joyner, talking all things Birds. Today, we got some inactives that are going to be coming out momentarily, and a couple of big injuries that, of course, have a lot of Eagles fans concerned. For more information, we're going to go out there to Arizona right now and talk to our JAKIB Media NFL insider, Mr. John McMullen. John, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Doing excellent, and definitely curious about Jordan Mailata. Reports are that he will miss this game. Avonte Maddox listed is out as well. What is the contingency plan here? More Jack Driscoll, more Josiah Scott. What do the Eagles plan to do today in order to make up for those injuries?
Yeah, I mean, it worked well last week. We're going to see if that was more sort of weather-driven because it was really difficult for everybody to throw the football, but certainly Jacksonville, they only had 11 completions. So Jack Driscoll coming in, essentially playing left tackle for the first time, held up well. And from a defensive standpoint, obviously Josiah Scott held up well in that condition. But those two, that concerns me, guys. It really does, because Jack Driscoll's not a natural left tackle. This is a pristine environment. They have the dome closed. It's going to be a fast track. So we're going to see if he can hold up in pass protection. And then Josiah Scott. Arizona doesn't have a ton of weapons without DeAndre Hopkins, but Rondell Moore's getting healthier, and they're going to go right at Josiah Scott. You can bet on that.
Hey, John, when you look at this Arizona defense, it's a defense that doesn't jump out at you in any aspect. They only have 4 quarterback sacks, and J.J. Watt, who's on his last leg basically, is the leader with 2. If you're running the Eagles offense, do you hit them with a balanced attack, or do you do more of one or the other, whether it's a running game or the passing game?
Well, I think, getting a feel from what the Eagles felt last week, I think they think they have a big advantage in the passing game. And they think A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith can get open. They especially think this could be a Dallas Goedert game. So I think they're going to try to throw the football today. So when we talk about that balance week after week, we know deep down what Nick Sirianni wants to be, what Shane Steichen wants to be, and that's 11 personnel chucking the football all over the field. They think they have an opportunity to do that against Arizona, and I think they're going to at least try. And maybe if that doesn't work early, they kind of shift gears in game.
Interesting, John. My biggest concern is going to be Sua Opeta at right guard. I'm not really concerned with Driscoll on the outside because they don't really have a premier pass rusher, on the outside. But with J.J. Watt lining up on Sua Opeta all game, like you said, they really want to throw the ball. Arizona's like one of the better run defenses in the NFL. But then again, so was Jacksonville last week, and we rushed for 210 yards against them. I still would like to see them have a balanced attack, but from watching film, I know that they can probably make hay against Isaiah Simmons. He just got victimized in week 1 against Travis Kelce. And you think about, you got Dallas Goedert. You could look at that film and glean some things from that and implement them against Isaiah, in this game today. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, one of the Eagles offensive coaches said he didn't want to disparage any players, but he said, watch the film and you know who I'm talking about when we think we can get Dallas Goedert some things. You just mentioned it, Seth. But in the case of Sua Opeta, I'd agree with you, but Isaac is going to play. He's going to try to play. So Isaac Seumalo is going to be out there. Now he's going to have his ankle heavily wrapped. As long as he's out there, I'm confident. But you're right. If they have to go to Sua Opeta, same thing I said about Jack Driscoll. They can go straight ahead, but I don't know if they can pass protect. And that's sort of the category of both of those players. Well, you're right with Dallas Goedert and Isaiah Simmons. The Eagles think they have a big advantage there.
John, one of the things we were kicking around earlier in the show was what exactly will the game plan be from Jonathan Gannon against Kyler Murray? Will it be the type of situation where just guys have to stay home, stay disciplined, especially your outside rushers, your defensive ends, for instance, or will it be a situation where you have a guy like T.J. Edwards play the role of a quarterback spy? How do you think they defend against Kyler Murray today?
Yeah, I think it's got to be disciplined, alignment, assignment. You have to be very, very disciplined. So maybe it's not sexy, maybe more mush rush type of thing. I love T.J. Edwards as a player, but he's not spying Kyler Murray. He can't keep up with Kyler in that aspect as a spy. Maybe he can do it with a Kaiser White a little bit, but more than that, I think the Eagles want to stay disciplined in their pass rush. Make sure that they keep Kyler in the pocket as much as possible. And, he's become more of, for the old school people, Fran Tarkenton. You remember the old highlights where Fran would just run around in the backfield, but he would never run forward. That's sort of what Kyler does now. He just runs around, extends plays, waiting for somebody to get open down the field. So it hasn't been much of a run type thing.
Hey, John,
I saw you guys lost me for a second.
No, we got you back. On paper, I don't think there's any way the Eagles lose this game, but based on what we've seen the first 4 weeks in the NFL, you always have to expect the unexpected. What's the one thing that worries you about Arizona against this Eagles team?
The Eagles are coming into this game haughty. D-Gun. They think they're going to out-physical this team. They think they're going to dominate this team. And I'm always concerned because who's on the horizon? The Dallas Cowboys. So, when we talk about letdown games in the NFL, this is a perfect spot for a letdown game. Borno team that thinks they're better, and they are better, by the way, but this is the NFL. This is not college where you have gimmies on the schedule. Everybody can jump up and bite you, and then you start thinking about the Eagles ruling Jordan Mailata out, ruling Avonte Maddox out. They're probably trying to get those guys healthy for Dallas. And, this is a prime spot for a letdown game.
John, last question for me. I hear you, man, but when I listen to this team talk, when I listen to Jalen Hurts admonish, the reporters this week about not making a big deal about, this football team that they're facing. They just wanted they want to talk about everything except for, the Arizona Cardinals. And when your 24-year-old quarterback, the leader of your team, steps up and admonishes the media, that sends a message to everybody else that we ain't taking nobody lightly. Now, they still got to go out and play the game. You can never step into the psyche of a team or player for that matter. But I just get the sense that this team is built a little different from, a guy like Jalen Hurts to the veterans that still remain on this team that understand what it took to win a Super Bowl in 2017, that the dynamics are a little bit different. But I get it. I'm just not a big fan of the what do you call it? What do you call this game? The potential
trap game.
Trap game. There you go. I'm not a big fan of the trap game.
No, I hear you. Most players aren't. But I'll tell you what, Seth, how I took Jalen Hurts, he wasn't admonishing us. I think he was admonishing his own locker room and trying to be a leader. Because we asked about Kyler Murray. We asked about Zach Ertz. We asked questions about the Arizona Cardinals. Then he took that time to talk about the Arizona defense. I think that was a message to his own locker room. That wasn't a message to us.
Hey, anyway, there's a lot of different ways of sending messages where you need to get them to. So however you got to send it to get it to work.
Yeah, John, I just think he doesn't like you guys, and I think if they lose, it's your fault. So that's just the way I think. That's the way I took it.
It always is. It always is, Mark.
Exactly.
Always is.
John, what is your prediction for this game today?
Eagles will out-talent the Arizona Cardinals. They will win 28-20.
Oh.
28-20. John McMullen. John McMullen, the JAKIB. Oh, yes.
I'm sorry. I got one more question for you, John. How much do you think a guy named Zach Ertz wants this game? He admitted in the media this week about how things didn't end favorably for him here in Philadelphia, but he also said, I love my time with the Philadelphia Eagles, but I really listened to when he said things didn't end the way I had wanted them to here. So this is the big one for him.
And he said, by the way, D-Gun, he said for 18 months things weren't the greatest, the end in Philadelphia. Yep. He's not mad at his teammates. He loved his teammates. He was mad at the organization. You remember, you go back to that playoff game, he played with a broken rib, two broken ribs, and a lacerated kidney, and he didn't think he got the respect he deserved from the organization. So in short, he wants to win this game really badly. And he's a big part of this offense, especially without DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, big red zone threat, a favorite of Kyler Murray already. John McMullen, thanks so much, man. Enjoy the game.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely, John McMullen. And just while you're talking about Zach Ertz, just real quick, I just want to acknowledge something with Zach Ertz. He scored a pretty big touchdown in the Eagles' history, but a man that was traded away from Philadelphia to Arizona, still very much involved in the community with House of Hope in Hunting Park. I was there actually earlier in the week, just doing phenomenal work. Him and his wife Julie, his mom Lisa, with the Ertz Family Foundation, doing remarkable things still in the Philadelphia community. We'll continue to break down Eagles Cardinals when we return right here at Ocean Casino Resort.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
My husband hadn't missed work in 15 years. His injury required months of rehabilitation, and unfortunately, the insurance company didn't see it that way. I was working 2 jobs, but it wasn't enough. One conversation with Pond Lee Hockey changed everything. We sat down, told them our story, and they guided us through the whole workers' compensation legal process.
Pond Lee Hockey. Tell us your story.
The faces you know, the team you trust. The Delaware Valley's leading news program, Action News.
Celebrating the life of your loved one is what we do at Life Celebrations by Givenish. When the matriarch of the Dalloway family died suddenly at 82 years old, Life Celebrations by Givenish stepped in.
They will make this the easiest thing that I know it's not easy, but they will make this as easy as possible.
Life Celebrations by Givenish, customizing services as unique as the individual.
I just know that my dad, who is in charge of everything, was not in charge of anything at that point when my mom passed. And again, just another shout out to this place for making it easy.
Turning tragedy into a celebration of life, no matter how hard, is what we do at Life Celebrations by Givenish. Life Celebrations by Givenish, customizing services as unique as the individual.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Welcome back to the JAKIB Media Pregame Show here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel as well as 6abc.com. We'll end this segment, of course, with our predictions for Eagles Cardinals. But one of the things that has now come up a couple of different times throughout the show is that term, trap game, letdown game. Is this type of game for the Philadelphia Eagles at 4-0 against the 2-2 Arizona Cardinals a trap game or a letdown game? I mean, call me naive, if you will. But I listen to guys like Jalen Hurts, and I listen to the head coach, and I listen to Jason Kelce even before the season talk about how they're going to be grading losses and grading wins the same way throughout the upcoming season. And so far to this point, gentlemen, that's exactly what they have done. And Jalen Hurts taking exception to not being asked about the Arizona Cardinals going into this game really gets my attention because it lets you know this. they're not taking any opponent lightly. They're not showing up and thinking that they can just beat any team, whether they're 4-0, whether the paper said before they were even 4-0 that they are that good with guys like A.J. Brown and Hassan Reddick and any acquisition they made throughout the offseason. This team does not seem to be reading their press clippings. They don't seem to be smelling themselves. They don't appear to be overconfident. Now, the proof will be in the pudding once they step on the football field again for their 5th game of the season. But going into it, I'm very confident that this team is not going to be overconfident with taking on a team like the Arizona Cardinals. Do they seem like a team that is overconfident? Do they seem like a team that is willing to buy into the letdown? Or are they a team that will rise to the occasion?
I think they're a team that's humbly confident. And it's a big difference between being cocky and overconfident underneath it and just being humble about, where you are at this point, but being confident in yourself. I like I talked to John, a second ago. I think there's something to be said, when you have a quarterback that's 24 years old in the 3rd year, in the National Football League that talks the way that Jalen Hurts talks. I mean, you just don't see young guys that mature at this point in time in their career. They're concerned with everything else under the sun except for what's important. And what's important is the next team that they have to play. So you hear him say it, and he's saying things that Jason Kelce is reverberating, and then you got, Nick Sirianni that's, kind of parroting some of the things that, that Jalen said, and they parrot off of each other. And to my point to John, they've got so many guys that's still left on this team that played in the Super Bowl. So those guys know what it takes week in and week out. What did they? What were they? 13-2 before Carson went down, or 13-1, something like that. So they know what it takes. They know that you can't take anybody lightly. They know that if you're playing on Sunday, you're a good football team. And any given Sunday, all it takes for you to come into a game and take an opponent lightly or not be prepared, don't do the work, don't put the work in, don't input the data during the week, for everything to just, go to hell in a handbasket real quick. So that's my point. That's why I don't really believe in trap games, because if you stay focused on what it is you're supposed to stay focused on, and you got enough veterans that are around that keeps the young guys, in check, then you don't have to worry about that stuff. You just prepare and go out and play.
Gunnar, you've been around this team long enough. You've seen this team have confident seasons. No better example than a season you win the Super Bowl. But even going into that year, the paper wasn't saying you're going to be this good. This year, the paper was saying they're going to be pretty good, and here they are at 4-0. Do you get a vibe from this team, from this roster, from these players, that they're going to approach this game with any sense of overconfidence?
This team has not only become the talk of the city of Philadelphia, it has become the talk of the league, and rightfully so, because they are the last of the undefeated standings. The thing that I love most about this team is the veteran leadership who keeps these guys in their proper moment. They're not trying to make just a statement from Sunday to Sunday. They're trying to make a season-long statement of what you're seeing right now is what you're going to see consistently for the remainder of this season. Any player that gives an inkling that he might start feeling himself, you have a Jason Kelce, a Brandon Graham, a Lane Johnson, a Fletcher Cox, a Hassan Reddick, who've been around the block a few times to reel these guys back in. You have a coaching staff, even though it's a young coaching staff and still an evolving coaching staff, that is mature enough to understand and have been around the game long enough to understand that you can't take anything lightly. We are not a team that's good enough to take anybody lightly yet. So, no, I don't think there will be any letdown in this game whatsoever. We understand what looms on the horizon. Everybody knows 7 days from now the Dallas Cowboys are going to be there. But if Dallas finds a way to beat the Rams, it's magnified even more so now, because if the Eagles lose that game, then they're tied with Dallas for first place. The Eagles want to go into that game in their backyard, under the spotlight of Sunday Night Football, in front of a national audience, undefeated, and dare the Cowboys to come in there and beat them. But before they get to the Cowboys, they know full well they had better not overlook this Arizona team.
In all honesty, I think that there's a very happy coincidence going on here with facing a team like the Arizona Cardinals, and that is the fact that the Cardinals started out last season as a 7-0 football team. We think 4-0 is good. They were 7-0 to start the season last year. They ended the season 4-6 after those first 7 games. So there's a lesson to be learned, and the Arizona Cardinals certainly taught any NFL team that. Just so happens that the Eagles being undefeated, that's the biggest lesson that they could take out of that record from a year ago. Now, a guy that we've mentioned once or twice on this show to open things up is J.J. Watt. 33 years old going into this game, had a health issue last week, still played. You mentioned earlier 2 sacks going into this game. Leads the team, nothing worth bragging about, but leads the Arizona Cardinals going into this game with 2 sacks. If I'm the Eagles, if I'm their offense, even though this offensive line is banged up, my job is going to be make him look every ounce of 33 years old that he is going into this game. Does he have enough left in his tank, to still be a huge factor in this game?
Well, I can't tell you one way or the other. You know, the last 4 years he's just been, a walking, injury waiting to happen. Does he still have some bursts in him from time to time to make something happen? Absolutely. But I think what you got to do is you got to double team him early, try to wear him down a little bit, and hope that everybody else, especially if they're going to line him up over on Seumalo's side. I saw a stat just this morning that Landon Dickerson is ranked the #1 guard in the National Football League.
Yeah, 12 pancakes left.
I mean, against the run and the pass. So guess what? Go ahead and give Seumalo some help. If the front dictates it, because you want to wear that guy down. They don't have a whole lot on the defensive line. I mean, the Allen kid has been playing well. I think he's at the other tackle position. He's been playing well, but I think, if JJ is the guy that's going to cause you a lot of problems, then make sure that you do what you got to do to take care of him early. Wear him down. Try to, beat up his confidence a little bit, to your point, make him feel 33 years old, and then you can, give Isaac some one-on-ones if you need to do some different things.
The fact that J.J. Watt is even on the football field today is a miracle in itself when you consider just a couple of weeks ago he was an AFib, and we had a guy named Jose Romero who's a writer and a beat writer for the Arizona Cardinals on our show Sports Take on Friday for the JAKIB Sports Media Network, and he talked about how everybody wondered if we had seen the last of J.J. Watt. Well, he's been clear. He's raring to go. He will be out there today. But the J.J. Watt we see today is not the fear of J.J. Watt we were accustomed to seeing. He's had major back issues. He's had major knee issues. This guy is on his last leg. 33 years old, is still a young man by normal standards, but as a professional athlete, his body is basically worn down. He's leading the team with 2 sacks, but we're accustomed to J.J. being up there with 18, 19 sacks in the season right now. So I think Lane Johnson, who has not given up a sack since when? 2020, can handle today's version of J.J. Watt.
Something else I wanted to point out here from the Eagles side of things, when you think about their offensive line, we obviously think about the Eagles' offensive line, especially with Lane Johnson and Jason Kelce, as an extremely veteran offensive line. They are going up against, this defensive line is going up a very veteran offensive line of the Arizona Cardinals. Listen to this stat from our friend Jimmy Kempski over at Philly Voice. 533 career starts on that Arizona Cardinals offensive line. Compared to the Eagles, that's 162 more career starts that they have together. So when we have talked earlier in the show about our own defensive tackles, the Philadelphia Eagles defensive tackles, like Fletcher Cox or Javon Hargraves or Jordan Davis, that's going to be a tall order. Now, the little caveat to all of that is the fact that Jason Kelce has more Pro Bowls in his pinky than that offensive line has in their entire grouping. So when it comes to Fletcher Cox, these are going to be one-on-one battles. When we talk about being disciplined going up against Kyler Murray, they got to win their one-on-one battles with their offensive line and make sure they can get in that backfield.
See, if I was game planning, for this game today, it hurts that you don't have Avonte Maddox, because I think he's a major difference maker, and I think he's on the verge of being a Pro Bowl player if he could just figure out how to get some statistics. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah.
If he could get a couple of sacks and get, maybe 4 or 5 interceptions, I think that he'll be a Pro Bowl slot guy. But missing him is problematic for the Eagles. And why? Because I think this is the perfect game to live in your 5-man front, okay? It's a perfect game to live in your 5-man front and play some zone behind it when you need to. But when you need to pass rush, you bring all 5. So now you got one-on-ones across the board. Your outside guys can pretty much just, like I talked about earlier, get to 3.5 yards depth and stop. And then you got 3 guys that are pushing. And what you have happen is that there's nowhere for Kyler Murray to go. See, against 4-man, the guy that gets doubled because there's 5 offensive linemen and only 4 D linemen, one of the guys is going to get doubled. And if he gets pushed out of his gap, now that's the hole where you can escape. But against 5-man, you've got 5-on-5 across the board. And when you send all 5, you got every gap across the board covered. Now, the question is, do you trust some of these guys behind you in the secondary that have to play to be able to cover when you're missing a guy like Avonte Maddox?
Now, when it comes to this game, is there one matchup that you guys are focused in on that the Eagles have to win in order to win this game comfortably?
On defense?
On defense or offense?
Oh, Slay. I mean, you're going to put Slay on the only weapon that they have, Hollywood Brown. And trust me, dude can straight up fly. He's sub 4.3, and he can go. So you're going to put Slay on him and say, okay, lock him up for the day, and we'll handle everything else. I think the Eagles can really get some things done, in that manner. If Slay, shows up and plays the way he's played through the first 3.5 games, because he didn't play much last week.
Hollywood Brown, by the way, the second most targeted wide receiver in the NFL, second only behind Davante Adams.
Yeah, the best way to make sure Hollywood doesn't get a lot of targets today is to keep pressure on Kyler, speed up his mental clock, make him do some things that he doesn't want to do with the football.
Did you say blitz?
Blitz all day. This particular quarterback, blitz all day. You talk about a 6% increase in blitzes. I want to see a 66% increase in blitzes.
That's usually his line.
Because I don't think Arizona has enough weapons across the board to beat this Eagles team. So what do? Force that quarterback to do one of 2 things. Throw the ball a lot sooner than he wants to, or try to run around all day.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you when it comes to the assertion of what you need to do with those matchups, whether that be Darius Slay versus Hollywood Brown, or whether that be the defensive line, or a guy like Hassan Reddick getting into the backfield. But yeah, absolutely. A guy like Avonte Maddox, I mean, you guys were talking about it earlier when it came to the nickel position. Avonte Maddox spoke at length last year about how the nickel position has become a very important position in the NFL, and it's just the perfect balance. When you're talking about an offense, especially throughout the NFL, that has become as pass-happy as the league has, that nickel spot needs to step up and make plays, and Avonte Maddox has certainly done that for the Philadelphia Eagles. For me, it's going to come down to Jack Driscoll on the outside and making sure he can protect a guy like Jalen Hurts in the backfield and making sure whoever he is lined up against, even though they don't get into the backfield a lot, Jack Driscoll steps up.
Are you afraid of Marcus Golden?
I am not afraid, but I am more afraid in what I haven't seen from Jack Driscoll, who hasn't been a left tackle.
I agree with Seth. I'm not afraid of Marcus Golden. But Jack Driscoll hasn't started a game at left tackle since his freshman year of college.
Hey, he held up last week.
He did.
He held up last week.
Okay.
A lot of runs last week.
Yeah, a lot of runs. But
50 running plays last week.
That was by design because, whoever ran the ball most effectively.
Remember that hurricane?
But when they had to throw the ball, he held up pretty good. Now, he got pushed a little bit, but I don't see anybody on that Cardinals roster that's going to be able to present the type of problems like the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, those 2 guys they had on the edge last week. I mean, Josh Allen and I'm trying to remember the guy's name, first overall pick.
Oh, Trayvon Walker.
Walker.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, when those 2 guys in comparison to what they're going to face today, I'm not worried about Jack Driscoll at all.
There we go.
Not at all.
All right, now it's the moment we've all been waiting for when it comes to our predictions for today's game, Eagles-Cardinals. Gunner, you want to take it first?
You always come to me first on these predictions, all right?
Well, I thirst for your knowledge.
I think the second quarter, once again, is going to be the Eagles' quarter. That's where they're going to open things up a little bit. And when the dust settles, Arizona's going to get a meaningless score later in the game. I'm going to say 28-21.
28-21, favor of the Greenbirds, that is.
I'm predicting that, the Eagles are going to jump out on them early in this game. And I think, by the time they get to the second quarter, they'll have a pretty sizable lead. And in typical fashion, we'll play passive in the second half, and they'll make somewhat of a game of it. But I think the Eagles win this game 33-26.
33-26. I'm in your same ballpark. I am in the realm of 34-17. there's going to be a play in this game where Kyler Murray buys time, makes us all feel dumb for a throw down the field to Hollywood Brown that's going to beat Darius Slay on one particular play, and it's because the play is extended. There's going to be one play like that. I give it to him like that. James Conner also, by the way, I think is going to step up with a nice play for himself as well. They used to call him the Terminator out there in Pittsburgh. He'll get a rushing touchdown today, so I see there are 2 touchdowns coming by way of that. Just one particular one from Kyler Murray that's going to be a thorn in our sides. But I think Hassan Reddick steps up, has a good game for this team today. And I think Jalen Hurts turns a lot more heads than he already has turned so far this season when it comes to a direct comparison that people will be looking at, not just in style of play, but also in anticipated contract between that of him, what he could be getting later this year at the end of the year, and what Kyler Murray has already gotten earlier in this season before we kicked it off.
Farzi, wait a minute now. We're already talking contract. I get the kid is playing well.
Yes.
But you still got another year. You're not obligated to.
No, you're not obligated.
Okay,
no.
So we got $39 million in cap space, and 2 first-rounders next year.
Sure.
Let's pump our brakes. We don't have to hurry up and pay him.
But what do the Eagles?
Let's keep him motivated.
But what do the Eagles like to do?
I know.
Dangle that carrot out in front.
Yeah, but look at what happened the last time we did that.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
How'd that work out?
You got Jalen Hurts.
Let's do it the other way this time.
No, by not doing the sound business decision, you ended up with Jalen Hurts, so it worked out. Certainly. All right, those are our predictions for today. For everyone here at Ocean Casino and the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, as well as 6abc.com, we'll be back with you guys, of course, with a post-game show. I'll be filling in for Mike Missinelli, so you guys are stuck with me for another couple hours. I'm sorry.
All good.
Derek Gunn, Seth Joyner, Marc Farzetta with you here on the JAKIB Media pregame show.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
Over the last 17 years, we've built a reputation of growing award-winning teams across the country. Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Welcome to Pond Lehocky. We've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.
It's a fall car fest, and Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, says, yes, you can. Jeff says, yes, you can choose from over 1,000 vehicles in stock with no wait. Yes, you can still get low prices, leases, and big discounts. Yes, you can still get low interest financing. And Jeff always says, yes, you can have a real deal buying experience without the hassle. When the other dealers say, no, you can't, Jeff says, yes, you can. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown. Nobody treats you better. Jeep Adventure Days.